Do you want to know the fastest way to make a narcissist lose interest in you completely? Here are 7 powerful things that will make them walk away and leave you alone for good. Number 7 is so strong that they will start avoiding you like a disease they cannot risk catching. Many people believe the only way to deal with a narcissist is to fight back, argue, or prove themselves right. But doing that is exactly what keeps the narcissist hooked, because it feeds their craving for attention, drama, and control. What truly works is when you become calm, peaceful, and completely unbothered. You stop being interesting to them. You stop giving them the emotional energy they feed on. Today, we will go through exactly how to make that happen step by step, slowly, so nothing is rushed and nothing is skipped. Before we begin, let us be clear about something important. This is not about manipulation or revenge. This is about saving your peace, your power, and your sanity. It is not a game you are trying to win against them. It is a life you are trying to reclaim for yourself. Narcissists are emotional vampires. They survive on your reactions, your energy, your fear, your anger, and your sadness. As long as you keep reacting, they will always return for more. It does not matter how much time has passed. If the door is even slightly open, they will find their way back through it. Research and psychology both show that narcissists believe they own the people around them. In their mind, you are not a person with freedom. You are a source of emotional supply that they can use anytime they please. They do not see a partner or a friend. They see a resource, something to be managed, something to be kept close enough to use, but never close enough to truly know. But here is the truth: they do not want you to know. This entire illusion breaks down the moment you stop playing your role in their game. When you refuse to react, to chase, or to explain, they lose control. The whole structure they build depends on your participation. And the moment you stop participating, the structure has nothing left to stand on. So, let us go through the 7 things that make narcissists lose interest and leave you alone forever. Number 7 is the most powerful one of all, and by the time we reach it, you will understand exactly why. The first thing you must do is stop giving emotional reactions. Narcissists feed on your emotions like fuel. They do not care whether you love them or hate them. What they care about is that you are still reacting, that you still care enough to feel something. Even hatred is useful to them because hatred still means you are thinking about them. When you cry, beg, argue, or try to explain yourself, you are feeding them exactly what they crave. Think of it like dealing with a spoiled child. When a child throws a tantrum and gets attention, the child learns that tantrums work, and the tantrums keep coming, each one a little louder than the last. Narcissists do the same thing, only they are adults with the emotional control of a toddler and the strategic mind of an adult, which makes them far more dangerous. When you react, they feel powerful. But when you stay calm and emotionally flat, they lose control. At first, they will try harder. They will say hurtful things, try to provoke you, even pretend to change, apologize sweetly, promise things will be different. They will do almost anything to get a reaction because your reaction is the only thing that proves to them that they still matter to you. But when you give them nothing, no anger, no sadness, no excitement, they start to deflate. There is no point performing when the audience has stopped watching. A performer without an audience eventually leaves the stage. This does not mean faking indifference. It means truly reaching a point where their opinions, insults, and drama mean nothing to you anymore. That is real strength, and it is not built overnight. It is built one calm response at a time, one quiet moment at a time, until quiet becomes your natural state instead of something you have to force. The second thing is to practice total no contact and to do it properly. Many people think they are doing no contact but keep making small exceptions. Real no contact means no communication, no curiosity, and no checking in any form through any channel for any reason. Experts describe 5 areas where people break contact without realizing it: direct messages, indirect messages sent through other people, social media stalking, driving by their house, asking mutual friends about them. You have to close every single one of these doors, not just the obvious ones. Picture a burglar walking down a street. He comes to a house with a locked gate, cameras, lights, and a barking dog, and he walks away without a second thought. But if he sees a house with open windows and no alarm, that is where he goes. Narcissists think the same way. They always look for easy access. If you make it difficult, they move on to somewhere easier. That is why your no contact has to be complete. Block their number. Block their social media. Change your phone number if you need to. Tell mutual friends you do not want updates and that you do not want to give any updates either. Make it clear once calmly and then never bring it up again. Here is the hardest part. You also have to stop checking on them. Every time you look at their profile or ask someone about them, you break your own boundary, and somehow they can always sense it. Almost like they feel the crack in the wall before you even notice it yourself. When you go fully silent, you become invisible to them. Narcissists cannot manipulate what they cannot see. They cannot control what they cannot contact. They might test you now and then. A random message, a like on an old photo, a mutual friend suddenly asking questions. But if you never respond, they will eventually give up because persistence without any reward is exhausting, even for them. The third thing is to stop defending or explaining yourself. Narcissists are masters at twisting your words and making you feel like you must justify your own actions. They will accuse you of things you never did just to keep you talking. The more you explain, the deeper you fall into their trap, because every explanation gives them new material to twist. When you defend yourself, you are accepting the idea that you need their approval. You are giving them the power to judge your worth as if their opinion of you were somehow the final word on who you are. Picture what happens when you stop. If they call you selfish, you can simply agree and move on without arguing. If they say you never cared, you can let them think whatever they want and say nothing more. Suddenly, they lose control because their entire manipulation depends on your need to be understood. And when that need disappears, so does their leverage. When you stop caring about what they think, they cannot hurt you. You do not need their approval to know who you are. You do not have to prove your goodness, your loyalty, or your love, because to them, none of that matters anyway. It never did. It was never really about the truth. It was about control. This does not mean you let lies spread everywhere unchecked. If someone at work threatens your job or your reputation, of course, you defend yourself professionally, clearly, and with evidence. But in personal relationships, the best move is silence. Do not play their game. When you stop explaining, you show them that their opinions have no power over you anymore. And that is something narcissists cannot stand because it removes the one lever they always relied on. The fourth thing is to become genuinely indifferent. Pretending not to care will not work because narcissists can sense fake energy the way a hunter senses fear. Real indifference means you have healed so much that you truly do not care what they do, who they are with, or what they say. They become emotionally irrelevant to you, background noise in a life that no longer revolves around them. You no longer check their updates. You no longer wonder about their life or hope they miss you. They are just another person in the world who no longer has access to your emotions, no different from a stranger passing on the street. To reach that state, you have to grieve. You have to grieve the illusion, the version of them you thought was real, the version you fell in love with, the version that may have never truly existed outside of your own hope. You have to accept that the person you loved never truly existed the way you imagined. The way once you process that pain, you gain peace. Then you start seeing them for what they really are. Not powerful, not mysterious, just deeply broken and insecure, hiding behind confidence that was never real to begin with. You realize their cruelty comes from emptiness, and their control comes from fear. Once you understand that, you stop taking their behavior personally, and they lose their hold on you completely. True indifference is not hate. Hate still feeds them because hate is still a reaction, still a form of attention, still proof that you have not let go. Indifference means you feel nothing, just neutrality. You stop trying to understand them, fix them, or change them. They simply stop existing in your emotional world. That is when you become truly free. The fifth step is to focus completely on your own life. This is where real healing begins. You stop living as a reaction to them. You stop posting things to make them jealous. You stop doing things to prove your worth to them. You stop going places hoping to run into them. You stop wondering what they would think if you did this or that, because their opinion no longer sets the terms of your life. Instead, you live for yourself. You start new projects, meet kind people, and follow your own dreams. You spend your time doing what excites you instead of replaying the past on a loop that never changes the ending. You invest in your growth, your health, and your joy, one small decision at a time. Something amazing happens next. You start to glow from within. Your energy becomes peaceful, happy, and fulfilled. Narcissists hate this because it destroys the illusion that you need them. They want you miserable, broken, and missing them because your suffering was proof of their power. But when you are living your best life, their control over you fades completely. When you focus on yourself, you no longer have time to think about their chaos. You are too busy building a peaceful life to notice the noise they are still making somewhere far behind you. You stop comparing your success to theirs. You stop competing. You stop explaining. You stop caring. And that peace becomes your shield. It protects you from being pulled back into old patterns, even on the days when memory tries to tempt you back. The sixth thing is to stop trying to expose them or change them. This is one of the hardest steps because your sense of justice screams that they must be held accountable. You want to warn others. You want the world to see what they did so that no one else has to go through what you went through. But every time you try to expose them, you feed them more energy, because even negative attention is still attention. They do not care if you hate them. They only care that you are still talking about them, still centering them, still giving them a place in your story. When you try to expose them, they often play the victim and twist the story. They will make others believe you are obsessed, bitter, or unstable. They are usually charming to outsiders, and they have probably already told people their version of events long before you ever spoke up. So, when you speak up, it often sounds like proof of their story instead of yours. It is unfair, but it is true. And fighting that unfairness usually costs more than it gives back. The same goes for trying to change them. You cannot fix someone who refuses to see a problem. Sending them articles about narcissism, begging them to get help, explaining their patterns to them, all of that just gives them more control. It keeps you emotionally attached, still hoping, still waiting for a version of them that may never arrive. Their healing is not your job. Their self-awareness is not your responsibility. You can care about someone and still refuse to carry their growth on your own back. You cannot teach empathy to someone who does not want to feel it. When you stop trying to change them or expose them, you reclaim your own energy. You stop being the hero in their story and become the main character in your own. That is the real victory. Quieter than anyone expected, but far more permanent. The best revenge is living well, not to hurt them, but to heal yourself. When you are happy, strong, and at peace, that is the one thing they can never steal, no matter how hard they try. And now for the seventh and final step, become completely emotionally unavailable as a source of supply. This is the ultimate form of freedom. It means you are not only physically distant, but emotionally untouchable. They can no longer trigger you because you have detached from the need for their approval or attention. When they text, you do not reply. When they insult you, you do not flinch. When they praise you, you do not melt. You remain steady, calm, and grounded. You give them nothing, no anger, no love, no pity, no explanation. You become as still as a rock, not cold out of hate, but peaceful out of strength. The kind of strength that does not need to announce itself. When you reach this point, you do not just make one narcissist lose interest. You stop attracting them entirely. They can sense when someone has no emotional supply left to give, and they move on before they even try. You become invisible to toxic people, but magnetic to kind ones. You start drawing people who match your peace instead of people who test it over and over looking for a crack. Becoming emotionally unavailable is not about pretending to be strong. It is about becoming truly healed inside. It is about realizing that your peace is too precious to waste on people who drain it. When you are emotionally unavailable to manipulation, you are free. You can finally live your life without their shadow following you into every new room you enter. So, there you have it. 7 powerful ways to make narcissists leave you alone for good. Stop giving emotional reactions. Go no contact and keep it firm. Stop defending or explaining yourself. Become truly indifferent. Focus completely on your own life. Stop trying to expose or change them. And finally, become emotionally unavailable as supply. This is not about punishing them or winning. It is about reclaiming your peace, your joy, and your self-respect. When you follow these steps, you do not just make them lose interest. You set yourself free. The goal is not to hurt them. The goal is to heal you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can ever do is walk away quietly and never look back. Not because you hate them, but because you have learned to love yourself more. You do not owe them pain, reaction, or closure. You owe yourself peace, and that debt is one only you can pay. When you rise above the games and stop responding to their chaos, you become untouchable. You become the one thing they cannot control, calm, grounded, and free. That is when you truly win. Not by defeating them, but by choosing yourself again and again until choosing yourself feels natural instead of difficult. If this message helped you, keep learning, keep growing, and keep choosing peace every single day, because the life waiting for you beyond their control is more beautiful and peaceful than you can imagine right now. When you finally break free from the cycle, something amazing begins to happen inside you. You start to see just how much of your life was spent trying to earn love from someone who never had any to give. You realize how many times you explained yourself hoping they would understand only to be misunderstood again, over and over in the same tired pattern. You start to see that the arguments, the confusion, the sudden affection followed by cruelty, None of it was your fault. It was all part of their design to keep you stuck in their web. A design built long before you ever arrived. Narcissists build emotional traps that make you question your own worth. So when you finally step out, the air feels different, lighter, cleaner, more peaceful, as if you have walked out of a room you did not realize was airless. At first, the silence feels like loss. You miss the intensity, even the chaos, because your nervous system got used to it, wired itself around it, learned to expect it. It is not love you miss. It is the emotional roller coaster. That is what trauma bonding does. It wires your brain to crave the very person who hurts you, mistaking the highs for love and the lows for something you deserved. But with time, the fog clears. You start sleeping better. You start smiling again for no reason. You start feeling safe in your own space, your own thoughts, your own company. That is when you know you are healing slowly, quietly, but surely. The narcissist may think they broke you, but in reality, they only pushed you toward your own awakening. Narcissists never expect their victims to rise. They expect you to stay broken, to keep replaying the story in your mind, to keep wishing for closure. But the greatest closure is understanding that you do not need one. You do not need their apology. You do not need them to admit they were wrong. You do not need to hear them say sorry because their words were never real to begin with. Their apologies are strategies, not sincerity. Timed for effect rather than meant from the heart. Once you understand that, you stop waiting. You take your power back. You move forward without them, without permission, without looking over your shoulder. Healing from a narcissist is not quick, but it is worth every single step. It is like walking out of a dark cave after years inside. At first, the light hurts your eyes, but soon you begin to see colors you forgot existed. You notice small joys, the sound of your own laughter, the comfort of peace, the beauty of quiet mornings, where no one is judging you or waiting to catch you in something. You remember who you were before the manipulation, before the self-doubt, before the lies. You reconnect with your own soul piece by piece, the way you might slowly recognize an old photograph of yourself. And as you heal, you begin to attract differently. You stop drawing people who drain you because your energy has changed. Healthy people recognize your peace and respect it. Broken people feel uncomfortable around it and drift away on their own without you having to push them out. That is how you know you are growing. When peace feels normal and chaos feels foreign, you stop chasing intensity and start craving calm. You realize that love does not have to hurt. Real love is gentle. Real love is consistent. Real love feels safe, boring in the best possible way. Narcissists cannot survive in that kind of environment. They need confusion, competition, and control to feel alive. When you no longer give them that, they lose all interest because there is nothing left for them to feed on. They will look for someone new who still believes their charm, who still reacts, who still gives energy freely. Let them go. You are not the solution to their emptiness. You are not their savior, their therapist, or their emotional crutch. You were never supposed to fix them. You were supposed to learn from them, to learn where you gave your power away and how to never do it again in this relationship or the next one. That is why your healing is not just recovery, it is transformation. The version of you that tolerated disrespect no longer exists. The version that kept explaining has learned silence. The version that begged for love now gives love to itself first before it ever looks for it anywhere else. You have evolved. You have grown into someone who no longer performs for crumbs of affection because you have built your own table, Set it yourself and learn to sit at it alone without feeling incomplete. You have learned that peace is not boring, it is sacred, and it is yours to protect. There will be moments when you still feel triggered. Memories might surface. You might hear a song or see a message that reminds you of them. But instead of breaking down, you will pause, breathe, and realize you survived. You made it out. They no longer control your emotions, even in the moments when the memory tries to pull you back. That realization hits deep. It is like reclaiming a part of your soul they once tried to steal. Every time you stay silent instead of reacting, you win. Every time you choose peace instead of chaos, you win. Every time you walk away instead of proving yourself, you win. And every time you look at your own reflection knowing you no longer need their validation, you win. That is real victory. Not the kind that needs an audience, but the quiet, powerful kind that happens inside your own spirit, unseen by anyone but you, and still more meaningful than anything they ever gave you. In time, you will stop wondering if they think about you. You will stop asking why they did what they did. You will stop trying to make sense of something that was never built on logic. Narcissists do not operate from love. They operate from fear. Fear of being ordinary. Fear of being ignored. Fear of being exposed. They wear confidence like a mask to hide a deep emptiness underneath. You no longer need to understand them because their behavior already says everything you need to know. Your new chapter is not about revenge. It is about rebirth. You are becoming the version of yourself that they tried to destroy. The version that knows their own worth, values their own peace, and trusts their own intuition without needing anyone else's approval to feel sure of it. You stop doubting yourself and start listening to that inner voice that warned you all along, the one you silenced so many times to keep the peace. You start believing in your own strength again. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You start living boldly, freely, peacefully, in a way that finally feels like your own life instead of someone else's. And that is when the narcissist truly loses. Not when you argue, not when you expose them, but when you heal so deeply that their name no longer triggers a reaction. That is when you have won the final battle. They can no longer touch you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. You have stepped out of their reach entirely into a life they will never be part of again. So if you are still in that place of confusion or pain, hold on. Healing takes time. But every day you stay no contact. Every day you refuse to react. Every day you choose peace over drama. You are moving closer to freedom, even on the days it does not feel like it. Do not measure your progress by how fast you stop thinking about them. Measure it by how little power those thoughts now hold. You are not who you were when they first met you. You are stronger, wiser, and far more aware, and that awareness is something no one can ever take from you again. In the end, the narcissist taught you something powerful: how to protect your energy, how to trust your intuition, and how to value your peace. Pain became your teacher, but healing became your graduation. You do not need closure from them because you have already closed that chapter yourself in your own time, on your own terms. Now, it is time to live. It is time to create a life filled with love, truth, and calm. A life where your heart finally feels free and where the only story you are still writing is your